Here's a Trumpian question. Can you fire people for leaking information that does not exist? Trump has been on defense over Trump campaign polling that he insisted doesn't exist.
We've all seen these reports that with 15 out of 17 states, you spend $2 million on a poll and you're behind in 15 out of 17 states.
Nobody showed you those polls because those polls don't exist, George. Those polls don't exist. You mean I'm losing in 15 out of 17 states? Those polls don't exist. I just had a meeting with somebody that's a pollster, and I'm winning everywhere.
Now the Trump campaign is firing its own pollsters over those very leaks, which suggest those polls did exist. And when the topic is polling, you can say, well, this is embarrassing maybe, but kind of trivial. But what about bigger issues cropping up, like this news that officials chose not to brief President Trump on a classified operation against Russia's power grid? Why? Well, there are reports those officials did not trust Donald Trump with the material and feared he would leak and discuss it with foreign officials. I'm joined by Bill Kristol, a conservative journalist and former Republican White House official who directs the group Defending Democracy Together. Which part of this do you find potentially significant?
I mean, Donald Trump knew that those polls existed, of course. I think firing some of his pollsters was a signal that don't leak to his campaign staff and to White House officials that you'll be fired if you leak, which isn't, if you leak things that Donald Trump doesn't want you to leak, which is probably, from Trump's point of view, useful. You know, you mentioned Nixon in the earlier discussion. It made me think about things. We've all talked about Trump thinking about Nixon, the lessons to be learned from Nixon's management of Watergate. But you know what strikes me about Trump? I think he's probably has studied a little bit insofar as he can study things. Nixon's behavior in 71, 72. Nixon took a lot of decisions to get himself reelected, economic decisions, foreign policy decisions. It's a little unfair maybe to say they were only for reelection, but he had a very reelection focused White House. One thing I think Democrats aren't thinking enough about, honestly, if I can give them some advice, is the things Trump can do as president that will help him, that may help him try to get reelected at least. He will use the entire panoply of powers that the federal government has, policy powers, executive orders, jawboning the Fed, foreign policy things, I think, to try to get himself reelected. He'll be unscrupulous about it. It's something that people should really be attentive to in the House and in the media, I think.
That's interesting you put it that way. I want to show another part of that ABC interview because they did get a lot of access. You have spent time in a White House behind the scenes. Most people never see that world. And I'm sure there are things you could give us insights about. I wonder what you think of Donald Trump's role and apparent savviness in how methodical he is about a moment that obviously people are making fun of, but I'm interested in it for what it reveals about him as a television producer, first and foremost, the coughing. I want to show the whole thing in its entirety so people can see. He is laser focused on the TV visuals that are going to come out of this moment during a time where we know they were there for 30 hours. Take a look.
They're after my financial statement, the Senate. They'd like to get my financial statement. At some point, I hope they get it.
You're going to turn it over?
No, at some point, I might. But at some point, I hope they get it because it's a fantastic financial statement. It's a fantastic financial statement. And let's do that over. He's coughing in the middle of my answer.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like that, you know?
Your chief of staff.
If you're going to cough, please leave the room.
Get a shot of, and I'll come over here.
You just can't.
Just to change the shot.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Trump.
Okay, do you want to do that a little differently then?
Yeah, we just changed the angle. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
So at some point, I look forward to, frankly, I'd like to have people see my financial statement.
When you were in the White House, did you ever see a president directly engage the videographer that way and try to reshoot a scene?
No, I mean, I guess staff might do that occasionally. It doesn't say much about him as a person, the way he treats Mick Mulvaney, but, you know, look, he is his own producer, director, executive director, whatever. And, you know, we can all make fun of it and deplore it, and believe me, I deplore it that the President of the United States is doing this. But, you know, he's had some success at this in the past, I suppose, both before he was president and as president.
Does it show more guile? I mean, there's a caricature of him by some of his opponents that he is absolutely clueless. And what I observe there is someone who is literally, he starts by redoing the line, then decides, no, let's reshoot the whole thing, and takes control in a way that shows, I think, quite a bit of attention to detail. Some might even view it as a little devious.
No, totally, and that's in a way ties in with the point I was trying to make before. He attacks the Fed chairman. Everyone normal says, geez, you shouldn't do that. It's irresponsible. Anyway, you appointed that chairman. If the effect of it is to have Powell be willing to reduce interest rates or not raise rates, but probably reduce rates, in fact, if the market seems to wobble a little bit, he knows what he's doing. That's what Nixon did, incidentally, in 71, 72. And I just think in a lot of issues, there is more guile than we think. It doesn't mean he's playing three-dimensional chess. It doesn't mean that he's thought everything through. It doesn't mean that he's not impulsive and all that, but he is focused on getting himself reelected. It's all about the reelection. You just see that. The only thing he cares about, which is dangerous. We have 18 months of a president, unless he's impeached and removed, 18 months of an actual president here who's conducting policy, foreign policy, economic policy, and so forth, entirely doing it. I mean, everyone does it a little bit, but entirely doing it through the screen of whether it helps him personally, helps his odds to get reelected.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.